Okay, hi everyone. I'm Mayur, and today we are going to talk about how you can actually write your first law book. I have my friend Namit, who's here with us, and he'll be sharing his thoughts. He's the revising author for five legal classics, including Ratanlal Dhirajlal CRPC, Mullah CPC, and has also assisted for the revising of MPJ and Constitution of India. So we have 11 participants as of now. Let's start. Can you tell us about yourself, Namit?
Hi, I'm an advocate. I primarily practice before the Supreme Court, but as my senior also told me, a good batsman bats on all pitches. So, taking case advice, we all go to all courts. We practice before different forums, and I am also slightly interested in legal writing. So I keep writing for various newspapers and for a few online courses as well.
Okay, tell them all about something like the sort of work that you have done. Like you have written a lot of articles and got them published with various newspapers as well as reputed legal journals.
Yeah. So it all started with one of my articles getting published with EPW initially. And then, gradually I started writing and I got a taste for it. And fortunately, I had good friends and good editors who guided me. And thereafter, the journey continued. And writing legal articles also gave me the opportunity to revise classics like Ratanlal Dhirajlal CRPC, Mullah CPC. And that is how the offer also came from Justice Chalmers and Justice D.S. Naidu to assist them in revising MPGen's constitutional law.
Right. Okay, so let's start with the topic how actually one can write a law book. So people have these thoughts in mind. Like I've come across, as a publisher, I've come across a lot of people coming up to me and telling me that we want to write a book, but they are not sure about a lot of things. Sometimes people have even prepared manuscripts and then come to me and then tell me that this is the book that they want to write. Like, for example, I had this one person who told me that I want to write a book on mediation, but he had no clue what to write, how to write, and all those things. But then he had a 3,000 page manuscript ready on just the mediation part of it. But that's how the funny incidences are. But okay, so to start with, like the most important thing that should be there is the objective, I believe, or
Yeah.
your goal. Why do you actually want to write that book? I mean, what's your goal? So today morning, me and my colleague Bishal were having this discussion. He told me, Mayur bhai, I want to write a book. So I'm like, okay, you want to write a book? Why do you want to write a book? He's like, I want to share my story with people. I was like, okay, what benefit is it going to make? So he's like, I made a lot of struggle in my life to reach where I am. I like had a point in my life where I felt I'm not from a well-known law college. Will I ever get a job or anything? And now today he's working with me. So he was like, I want to share these kind of stories with people and tell them like how they can follow or inspire from my story and then follow my steps accordingly, and then tomorrow maybe they are also successful. I said, okay, that's fine, but what's the objective? Like, what is the whole idea behind writing that book? Because for these things you could actually start up with let's say writing a novel or something. That's a more of a biography sort of a thing, but uh, what is the whole point? Like, I want to know what's the point. Then he came up, I want to inspire people and help them, like how they can grow and all those things. But still he was not sure about what an objective or goal he should have in mind. That's probably because a lot of people don't have that objective in them. It's just a feeling that is developed that I want to write a book. But it is not about that, right? It is beyond that. You need to know what should be an objective. Like for me, when I wrote a lot of books, uh, that time the objective was to gain popularity and raise a lot of money through my readings. so that as much as distribution I'll get more famous, I'll get more revenue out of it. That was the whole objective of me writing those books and then publishing them as well. So all those things happen, like, so that's my take on the objective part as to how an objective should be. Namit, what do you say, like, what about the objective thing, like
Yes,
what is
the first thing which is to be kept in mind is to have a defined objective. For example, if someone wants to write a book on, say, arbitration. Now, arbitration is broad as a very broad subject. So, if you want to write a book on arbitration, you'll have to decide first whether you want to keep it theoretical or you want to give practical aspects of practicing arbitration. Then you'll also have to keep in mind, the author also has to keep in mind what are the available competitors in market. For example, for arbitration, there is Malhotra, there is Bachawat, by leading publishers also. So what extra are you going to bring in is important. Like, for
the
example,
value addition?
there is a dearth of practical aspects of arbitration. A book dedicated to practicalities of arbitration, how summary proceedings are conducted, how do you file an application under 1213, formats of such applications, how arbitral proceedings are actually to be conducted from the point of view of litigants, as in people who are aggrieved and they go to arbitration, or they defend arbitration, as well as from the point of view of arbitrator, because that is also something which is missing. So, how does an arbitrator conduct proceedings? So, the objective is to be very clearly defined. So, before one starts writing a book, the first thing which is of primary importance, that is the objective, and to
Correct.
competition in the market, and how do you distinguish your book from what is something which is already available.
Correct. And with that objective, it should be very clear, like, why are you going to do it? Because objective might sometimes have that motivation factor also, that I always wanted to write that book because I want to reach out to people, or let's say I want to reach out to a lot of people and then make money out of it. Like, it needs to be focused in a way. And then the other part, I believe, should be, let's say, who are the target audience that you are catering to. Like,
Correct.
for example, let's say somebody wants to write a book
Mm,
in the field of, let's say, arbitration, because we are
mm,
talking on arbitration. So he wants to attract all these foreign law firms, arbitration
mm,
partners, so that he
mm,
could actually channelize with those people
mm,
his intent of getting foreign clients and all those things. And
mm,
then getting, so the target market here, or the target audience he's catering to, or
mm,
is looking forward to his for his work, would
mm,
be like those law firm partners or
mm,
the in-house counsels of of what doing arbitration work majorly in the
mm,
foreign lands, and they have India related work too. So this will be something like a, let's say, a target audience. And then once you have that target audience in mind, then strategizing things is much easier, I believe.
mm.
But
Also,
whereas
it will
perhaps
involve,
with people,
Mayur, it will
yeah,
also involve whether your target audience, the target audience can also be very broad. For example, someone writes a book on arbitration for the purpose of practical aspects of it. The target audience would be very, very concentrated. Only those who practice in the field of arbitration, they'll only go and buy your book.
correct,
The initial, when you start writing a book, after deciding the objective, one has to focus on a broad target audience. For example,
right,
things that I'll write a book for students, or I'll write a book for professionals, or I'll
right,
write a book for academicians, because
right,
the
absolutely,
sense and the taste of the book will vary according to the target audience which the author has in mind. So
correct,
also, then also you'll have to distinguish. For example, if you are writing a very, in a sense, a very updated book for postgraduate students, for example, or you want to write a book on practice and procedure of the Supreme Court, for that matter, for example. So only advocate on records can file wakalatnama in the Supreme Court. So it
right,
will only be for the advocate on records, or people who are aspiring to be advocate on records, or people who have a general interest in it.
right.
It will also include where do you file a case, what is the court fees, basic aspects of litigating in the Supreme Court. So that way, a target audience has to be very carefully calculated. And before you proceed further with the book, for example, before meeting the publisher or before deciding the tentative chapterization of the book, you'll have to focus on the target audience, because this is the first question which the publisher will also shoot. Ki,
Absolutely.
whom do you want that your book should be read by? So
Right.
target audience is very important.
That will help you choose a publisher as well, the
Yeah,
correct publisher for your book also. Because
correct.
once you have a target audience in your mind, then probably you are in the right shape and right direction and finding the only publishers who will be interested in your kind of work that you are putting forward, right? But whereas I have seen people getting confused a lot of times as to they don't follow this path. What they do is they'll straight away think of a title for their book. Whereas I believe that the title should be the last part. I mean, making a title catchy and all those things are very important. I do get it, like designing the
Mm,
cover and all those things are very important. I
mm.
mean,
And
people do
title
have,
will keep on changing also. This is
but
something
people do
people don't realize.
they don't realize the process. I mean,
Mm,
people generally have this in mind that they want to actually write a book and then they have a title in mind. This is
mm.
not the way it should be, right?
Title
So,
can be changed before the book goes into printing, but
correct,
the material which you do, the
right,
material you collect. Number three is stage number three is collection of material and
correct.
preparing a tentative chapterization for it as well.
Correct. Coming to the same part,
Ah,
and probably you have a lot of expertise over that. That how actually what are the preparatory activities that one needs to look at, like while writing his first law book.
so one will have to collect again. I'll repeat myself because this is very important. Checking the competition in market. So once you check competition and you know, okay, this is something which I'll do, and this will, distinguish my book from from literature already available in market. Then the first thing which has to be done is collection of material. Yeah, you'll have to collect material from various sources. You'll have to verify various sources. You'll have to prepare a very tentative table of bibliography, that these are the books I'll refer to. And there's a very famous quote by Francis Bacon which says, some books are to be tasted, some to be swallowed, and very few to be chewed and digested. So you'll have to very calculatively, very carefully choose as to what all books you want to refer to, what all judgments do you want to refer to, because if you're writing a law book, you'll have to keep a compendium of judgments that you'll keep referring to. You'll have to also see, and that will all come gradually. What all, and for example, if you are referring to a judgment, you also should know about the judge, because for example, we have a lot of judgments by Justice Kardju on the bail jurisprudence. So it reflects the way he personally, as an individual, looked towards bail. So that also has to be highlighted, and that also has to be kept in mind while writing the book. So collection of material, thereafter preparation of a tentative chapterization, a very broad chapterization, in the sense that I'll divide my book into 11 parts or 11 chapters.
Namit, can you highlight like let's say what sort of resources you look at like while doing going about all these things, like in order to find the competitive market and all those things,
Yeah.
what kind of
So,
resources, like,
so to check competition, for example, if you're writing a book on arbitration, you can visit websites of top legal publishers
right,
like Texas, EBC, and there are other few Eastern Law House. Rupa also has, published few good books. So you'll have to
right,
check what all books are already there, and then you'll have to go through them. You'll have to study them once. At least you'll have to
right,
go through the style of writing in those particular books. If you're writing a commentary, for the matter, on a particular subject, you'll have to
right,
very carefully go through how, because you'll find few books which take a particular statute book. For
right,
example, they take the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, and then you go section wise, section one, and then commentary on section one, section two, commentary on section two. The other kind of books would maybe that they go topic wise. For example,
right,
we have books on CRPC which go topic wise as to bail, then they'll collect everything in bail, what all is there in the bail jurisprudence, what all sections are there, what are the landmark judgments, and they
Correct.
they'll proceed. So you'll have to check the style and writing of those particular books, and then you'll have to decide as to how do you want to go about your book. If you want a
Right.
section wise analysis, that is different. If you want only practical aspects, for example, in the Supreme Court, if you want only practical aspects, you have to refer to the Supreme Court rules largely. And there are a few judgments also and few constitutional provisions, and there are other 1970 Enlargement Jurisdiction Act. So
Correct.
then prepare a tentative chapterization, which will of course start with introduction, and then thereafter you'll have to, and you can also say, and this work is important because this is something which the publisher will ask. So,
Correct.
for example, you go to chapter number 6 and you're confused because this is tentative. So you can do 6A and 6B, that this is a very broad topic. I may consider dividing it into 2 parts or 3 parts or 4 parts. That can be 6A, 6B, 6C. So that way you'll have to prepare this, and then you'll have to, start writing the judgment, the book. Then once you start writing it after collection of material and tentative chapterization, in my view, that is when you should also prepare a brief summary of the project you have, and then you'll have to start contacting publishers. You have to send brief write-ups to the publishers, and you have to get in touch with them. You can use social media for this. You'll have, and there is a constant follow-up. There is no
Right.
there's no particular this thing that I've mailed them once and now let them respond to me. You'll have to constantly bug them. You have to constantly reach out to them so that they respond and they tell you whether your proposal is acceptable. But also, a
So
different,
basically, relation building is the thing.
yes,
I
and
mean, you need
also
to build a constant relationship altogether with a publisher or the
correct,
publishing agent you are
correct,
looking
and
at.
also different publishers have different proposal templates. So you'll have
Correct.
to get those proposal templates from the concerned publishers. There are publishing agents also. There are publishing agencies which facilitate your
Correct.
links with the publishers. So that way you'll have to go through them, and you'll have to get them interested in your project. Once they're interested in your project, then they'll build up a relationship with you. They'll
Absolutely.
queries, you'll respond to them. And by the time, and all this will go parallelly, and you'll have to keep working on your book. And as
Correct.
and this is how publishers also do. They'll ask you to share the first 2 chapters of the book. Okay, first 2 chapters, you send them to us. We'll do proofreading. They have these softwares to check whether something you have borrowed and not cited, and all these things. There's an entire,
Absolutely. Plagiarism check is very important because it becomes a publisher's responsibility when the book is published, that
correct.
even if you have copied it from somewhere. So I
Hmm.
have a recent article coming
And
to
then
this.
you'll have to also, by the time you keep writing your book, you'll have to also discuss terms with the publisher. You'll also
Absolutely.
discuss royalties. You'll also have to discuss copyrights, rights, and the number of copies which will be published, the number of copies which will be given to you, the number of, there is, you'll have to enter into a written agreement with the publisher. The publisher will also give you a timeline. Within the timeline, you'll have to finish the book, and
Correct.
or a part of the book, and you'll also have to discuss whether you want it in a hardcover format or a paperback format, or how do you want the cover to be designed? You want your own designer to do it, or you want the publisher to do it, and
Correct.
what all imprints do you want to get carried with the book? Where all can the publisher mark her logo on it? All this will have to be discussed. The entire terms will have to be discussed on table sitting. Across the table will have to do
Right. And as an author, like I remember this that the very important part, which I believe is the proofreading of the book.
it. Yeah.
And once you've researched the content, there are so many errors that like hit doesn't come to your eye. And if you believe in your own reading to be the proofreading for your book, then probably you are mistaken, because you need a lot of the other people to also review what you have written.
Yes.
And
Before sending anything to the publisher, you should thoroughly review it yourself and through your friends, or you can, publishing agents, or
I at least suggest like get it read
proofreading
by,
agents nowadays also.
you can at least get it checked by let's say 3 or 4 people before you actually share a draft to
Yeah.
publisher, right?
Because
And
it gives a very
yeah,
negative impression if the publisher keeps on pointing that,
absolutely
that this is a mistake, this is a mistake. Also, you'll have to see that what format does the publisher want it, because
right.
that it has to go in that format, and the publisher will keep sending you in the track change mode. You also have to keep updated. You have to keep separate folders in your laptop, and this. But these are basic preparatory works which happen.
Absolutely.
Then, from case to case basis, things can also differ.
Right. So as a publisher, I used to get a lot of manuscripts every day, around like let's say 5, 6 manuscripts a day. And then probably I had only 24 hours. Even if it was my own business, I couldn't read like all of them. So what happens is basically you don't you send a full manuscript to a publisher. People do that often, right? You send the full manuscript. Who is going to take that labor out and read it as only because you have sent it to me? Doesn't make any sense, right? People have their and talking about a big publication house, they have like a editorial board, right? The editorial board is already doing like a job where they don't have like even a minute free for any extra reading, because they are getting so many manuscripts, let's say articles, research papers, whatnot. Like one could imagine what doesn't an editorial would be going through. I mean, then if you ask them to review your full manuscript, it's like not happening. Then probably the editor will be in a position to say no all the time. Oh, I didn't get time. I didn't get time. I didn't get time. I used to do that a lot. But then the only part is like if people, I mean, I couldn't devise that strategy that day. But today, I think if you start sending like a chapter, or even if you can't send a chapter, let's say start sending like 300, 400 words a day to an editor, connect to them over social media,
And all
offline.
whatever material you email to your publisher, it has to be, you'll have to reserve your right on it, and
Absolutely.
every email that this is your writing and this is your property, and the publisher will not publish or distribute or share it with anyone without your permission. This has
But
to.
that way he'll give you views.
Huh,
He'll tell you how it is to be done.
yeah.
If you
Because
don't know,
otherwise,
because
in a
a
lot
lot
of
of people
cases,
will know how to go about writing a book, right? So
correct.
that's the best way to get reviews from a publisher. And that's I mean, 10 days he won't reply to your messages. But the 11th day, I'm sure he'll give you some or the other comment. And if you don't if you come to know that he's not replying, then probably he's not interested. You can move on to other people, right? But at the same time, you can also figure out, let's say 2 or 3 publishers who are gaining confidence in your work, giving you comments, telling you how you can go about doing this. Then you probably can share them chapters after building, and then yes, get into a big like relationship. Because generally a publisher and an author relationship, I don't think it is for only one book or something, right? A publisher invests a lot of time and money, like be it coming to the editorial side of it, or designing, or publishing, or printing the book for that matter. He is investing a lot of money, time, and effort to your work, right? Ultimately, it's your work in the end. So he also needs that comfort zone from you, right? That he also knows everything inside out. I mean, if you are into that kind of a relationship with a publisher, then he'll be probably looking at writing a series with you. Let's not
There's,
say
there's,
just
there's, there's one more thing, Mayu, which we'll have to consider. That if
sure,
there may be people who don't want to go to a publisher and they want to do something which is called self-publishing. So
right,
self-publishing is good also, but it carries certain drawbacks. So self.
absolutely,
So first problem is that how do you distribute it? So and the number of copies, because you don't know the business environment. You're not trained. You're an author. You are not trained in sales and marketing of how books are being circulated and distributed. particularly law books, because only lawyers will buy it, either lawyers or students or academicians. So the target
Academy.
already is very reduced to people who are related to law somewhere.
Right. Even
So,
the jurists, they
uh,
also
so,
use books.
so you don't know the number of books which you publish. For example, you just take a number that, okay, I'll publish 1,000 copies, or I'll publish 5,000 copies of the book.
Correct.
Then the first thing which you'll have to do is, okay, I've published it. Now, how do I distribute it? So initially, see, this is, and I have a friend, a very close friend, who did self-publishing, and he ran into losses because of this, because he thought, I'll, send complimentary copies to all libraries and to all
Right.
NQs and to all law colleges, so that, they get interested, and gradually they'll start, ordering the book from me. But it
Correct.
never happened. So that way, self-publishing is good if you have a good distributor and you know how to sell it, or how to market it, or your book is something which will, revolutionize how
Absolutely.
particular
It
topic.
never happens that way because the
Very
marketing and the
difficult.
distribution part is like the most important for a reader,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Online self-publishing is something which you could do, but
mm.
offline, I think doing self-publishing is
So
not a
there are
very great
promotional
idea.
events involved. There are launching events involved. That all,
Absolutely.
that all is discussed with the publisher while publishing.
Because generally, as a publisher, we have like a distribution channel in place. We have been
Right.
doing it for like a decade or something. For my case, it was even more than
Mm,
50 years. So I had a very nice distribution channel in place. I knew people, I knew the bookstalls, I knew who are the readers gonna be. So
mm,
accordingly, I used to distribute those books, right?
mm,
And then once you distribute, people always have this in mind that once my book is published, it is making money. It is
mm.
nothing like that. I
Mm.
mean, trust me, I've seen books been there on
Also,
shelf
you
for
don't know
3 years.
the way a book is printed, the way a book is published. It involves a lot of technicalities. So
Correct.
self-publishing is something. If you find a publisher, that is better than self-publishing. If
Absolutely.
it becomes a hit, then self-publishing it generates more revenue. But otherwise, even using social media platforms and e-commerce websites, it does not help, because they also, boost posts, and they also have, from the number of buyers, they assign their products also. So that also is not sufficient.
Okay. Correct. And okay, Namit, tell me about like how people like how can people inspire from you and they also can write legal classics like
So, see, it's a dedicated exercise. It has, much more preparatory work than it actually, see, once you get the thrill of it, and once you are in the flow, then it becomes very easy. But till then, the preparatory work and discussions with the publishers, and it is not that you'll have a what we call OPC, a one-person contact in the team.
right?
For example, in my case, this happened because I was in touch with someone with LexisNexis, and that person left the job midway and went. He got a better offer. So then,
Correct.
entire discussions, they took place with someone else. Then the team got divided. So all this will keep happening. There won't be, that you won't be talking to one person at one point in time. So there are a lot of technicalities involved. So when you have a good publisher, and you are in touch with a good team member of that publishing house, then it becomes comparatively easy. But but it is a very dedicated exercise. You'll have to leave everything apart for at least a few months, and you'll have to do this only. Then only it becomes, and there is no point writing a book if the book is not debated, or the book is not discussed, or the book is not, in a sense, criticized also, because there'll always be criticism. And healthy criticism, constructive criticism, is something good, which helps you develop yourself also.
Correct.
So it is a big effort.
Right.
Yes, one has to, that is why objective, and a clear objective in your mind has to be there.
Right.
Then,
And yes, again, like we discussed, like the target audience and all those
mm,
things.
mm,
In the end, I would say it's the title selection
yeah.
that matters again. Like
The title has
once
to be
you're done
catchy.
with the content part of it, once you've structured it in a way that
Mm,
the publisher and you're already building a relationship with the publisher, then probably you could think of a name for your law
mm,
book. But
mm,
how it is different from the other books and the law book, because law book you generally don't have a lot of stories to say, right? You put in your hard work, your dedication, your research, that research which probably I don't think lakhs others would be able or would be in a shape to do, because you have
mm,
put in so much effort, you have gone out of your way
mm,
to do that research, and that's how you come across building a book, right? It cannot be something like you now you have a clear goal, you have a target audience, you know. Let's say uh, I'm writing a book on let's say evidence act, so I will be probably doing a work as to what are the practical challenges that are faced by lawyers.
mm,
If I was a practicing lawyer, I am not a practicing lawyer, but if I was a practicing lawyer, then I would have dedicated that book towards the target audience of people who are doing a criminal practice, so that they can relate to it. And if even if I'm able to deliver that impact on, let's say, not all 1,000 book readers, but then only on 10 book readers too, and then they learn something new, that's an achievement for me, sufficient achievement for me,
mm.
because
Correct.
people get to learn new ways, and
Mm,
all those things are not talked about. Then that is a value addition, then people are more interested, because those 10 people would be telling another 10 people that I learned this technique from this place,
mm.
right?
Yes.
It's not about reading those books only, it's
Mm,
more about like learning from it. I mean,
mm,
that's why we are publishing so many books, and people like you are authoring so many books,
mm.
just because you want yeah, like because we are those people who want to create that impact, who want readers to get something new out of us every time, right?
Also, about title, one has to be very careful that the title should not be similar to a title which is already there. For
Correct.
example, if you're if you're writing a commentary on arbitration will go as a commentary on arbitration by XYZ. But you're writing a book on, for example, say scams and schemes. So you'll have to see that whether a similar title is there or not, because then there can be legal issues involved. Also,
Correct.
you'll have to take a soft copy from the publisher, a PDF file of the entire book along with the cover page for your personal purposes. And you'll have to work uh, for this also. You'll have to work for how to generate a space in the market. That will come with title, because title has to be very catchy in that sense. But title comes at the end, because title can be uh, changed at any stage. Before the book goes into printing, title can be changed at any stage. Also, you'll have to discuss a good timeline with the publishing house. For example, if you say, okay, I'll finish it within 8 months, then you'll have to, because printing also takes some time. So you'll have
Right.
to say that this will be the date, this will be the launching date when my book will be, sent from the publishing house to the distributors, and this is the day my book will come in market.
Correct.
And you'll also have to discuss terms with the publisher, that if the publisher is willing to use e-commerce, and if the publisher is willing to give you X number of copies, so that you can also uh, send it to them.
Correct. And let's say now let's open it up for our participants if they want to know, have like specific questions as to what they need I mean for the discussion, so people can use chat and tell us your questions in mind with regards to any of the above, like the objective part of it, or let's say the target audience, or the preparatory exercises, or the title also. So, Yuvraj, generally, you should approach the publisher as soon as you have decided on the target audience, as well as your object is clear. Then it's a good idea to start building that relationship with the publisher, and so that once you are shaping your book, you are already in touch with somebody who could actually publish a book for you, because in the end it becomes really difficult, because you have already prepared all your work and then you are approaching a publisher. It takes time, right, for the publisher to think, for the editorial board to review your readings and all those things. It takes time. So the best possible way to get in touch, or the right time to get in touch, would be probably the time when you are clear with your target audience, as well as your goal as to why you are writing that book.
Uh, don't
How
worry,
safe is that?
don't worry about how safe is the idea, because whatever emails you send to that particular publisher, email will have to carry this, that this is your idea and without your permission it cannot be shared. So generally, publishing houses, they don't do this because there are legal issues involved. If your idea is very unique and something which is not there, for example, if someone wants to cover a very niche subject like caste equations in appointments of Supreme Court judges, and you have data to support whatever you want to write on, then you
Right.
can earmark this, that this is an original idea, and you'll have to categorically tell the publisher that whosoever in the publishing team deals with you and your book will have to have a binding contract of something which is called non-disclosure, that he or she will not disclose the idea to anyone. So you can enter into an agreement with them at the very
Correct. So the next question is from Suleiman, I think. What will be the cost of printing and what will be the margin author will get? Okay, so the cost of printing, I think, is a altogether different topic and discussion, because if you are looking at self-publishing, then there are other costs, and if you are looking through a publisher, then probably for you the cost of printing is not there. And what will be the margin author will get? So that depends. Like sometimes the author is paid like a one-shot payment for that very edition of the book, and in the normal cases, it's the royalty that is paid out to the authors, and those also depend on like the number of copies that a publisher is publishing, and all those things are also there as a part of what an author's margin would be. But I would suggest still that just making one edition of a book is not going to give you a lot of revenue as an author. You need to have like a number of publications, and be it like revising them or supporting them, like in a way co-authoring or something, that is going to help you a long way to make revenues out of your authored work.
generally what the publishers offer is either 10% of the MRP of
Mm.
book sold, or 5% of the net profit order. So, for example, if the book is costing them 100 rupees, the MRP is 100 rupees, they'll give the publisher, they'll give the author 10 rupees on each book. Otherwise, if the book in the market is, for example, it depends. It depends. You can have a lump sum money also. If the book will have successive edition, can be different. If there will be a sequel to a book, then it can be different. But generally, this is what the publishers offer.
The market practices.
Yeah.
Right. So next question is from Sarthak. What is a good source to collect material for the book?
This is something. This is a very broad question. So, a good
Right.
any source is a good source. So if you're writing a book, you'll have to do a lot of collection. Whatever material you get, you just collect it, and gradually you go deeper into it. If the source is a direct uh, uh, source, as in you have a book or a judgment from where you refer or you take material, that has to be every see good sources. You can go to libraries, you can use online, you can use judgments, you can use um,
Articles, research papers.
articles, commentaries, anything. All these are good sources to collect material.
Right. So the next question is from Namit. Any drawbacks to co-author a book? How is royalty generally divided between co-authors?
So it
So
depends on the an agreement between the co-authors. If they want 50-50, they can do 50-50, and if they want 60, whatever, it depends amongst them. There is no law as such on it.
Right. It's the understanding that matters
Understanding between
more
them.
than right,
Yeah.
more than the
And
division that
there are
actually
no
takes.
drawbacks to co-author a book as such. See, there are two ways to look at it. One may be that, for example, X and Y are writing a book together, or X alone is writing, and but X knows that in my name the book will not be sold that much. So he takes Y along with him. Y may be a senior advocate, Y may be a distinguished luminary in that particular field on which the book is written. So that way, in the name of Y, the book will be sold. So X and Y can have co-authorship that ways, and that will help them in revenue generation and getting the book circulated. Drawbacks are also there because if you have successive editions of the book and there is a dispute amongst the co-authors that who will write what, who wants to continue in the same fashion or wants not to continue in a similar manner, so that there may be differences, but it is broadly on understanding between each other. If you
Right.
need help, either financial or for revenue generation purposes, you can get it co-authored with someone. Or in case if you're genuinely interested and you divide amongst yourself that this is the part I'm good at, this is the part I'll cover, this is the part you'll cover. That way you can get it co-authored.
Right. But as far as I think I could think of, so I have had this situation before, like where people have come to me that we approached a publisher, and he told us that I'll use your work, I'll publish your work, but your name would not be there on the book. This happens a lot of time in the publication industry, and I have come across many such examples. So probably that's a very major drawback, but that's also good in a way, because you are actually writing for somebody who's a well-known name or anything. But this practice is generally followed, where people say or they tell you well in advance, and only those people should approach who are approaching from the point of view of learning, rather than it's not very important for you to have a name on the book. But if you have that in mind, if your objective is clear that I want it to be from my name, then you should probably not look for such publishers. There are 10 other publishers in the market who will be publishing it with your name and would not be putting their editorial board people on the book cover rather than your name. But this is a practice which has been in place since long, and the only difference I could make as a publisher, I never followed that practice. Whoever did the work on the book, his name has always been there for me on my books, and yes, that's more about it. So that's one drawback, I would say, of co-authoring a book, because you never know the last moment. I mean, if you're not in a very good relationship with your co-author, then last moment he might just tell you that your name is not on the book, and then you might feel hurted or deceived or anything of that sort. But generally, it's the relationship between the co-authors that matter. Like, how do you one ideal relationship, I would say, is another co-author co-author telling each other that this part is more important, like Namit said, that you could cover this part and I could cover this part, and then both of them can have a discussion as to what should be the ideal content for the place. So that way, that relationship should be there always between the co-authors. So any more questions? Okay, so till the time people can come up with more questions, Namit, I think let's talk more about the objective part, because I feel that's the first step of writing a law book. So as I said, my objective was very clear in the beginning. I said that my objective was very clear, that I want to be a famous name in the industry, probably with the highest number of distribution rates, because of the background I had. And I wanted to make a lot of revenue out of the work I was doing. So for me, my target audience was always people in the far off villages who actually had an intent for reading Hindi, and the availability of books was a question there. So
Yes,
I
yes,
wanted
yes.
to reach
So
out to those.
language is also important. That is something. So
Language is always important, right,
we
for
are
a reader to connect with you.
yes,
I
yes,
mean,
yes. We are
so I
moving
had
forward with
that
an
in mind.
assumption that it will be in English, but it can also be in your local language. For example, Hindi or
Right.
it depends.
I remember people calling me from Bihar, far off villages, and telling me that we need a copy of this very book authored by you, just because we had an old edition and want a new one. So it's a new edition, and then I used to send all those people those books. So this is what the impact is all about, because I had a target audience already in mind. The second target audience I had in mind was the judges, and that's how I concentrated my efforts toward reaching out to a lot of judicial libraries. And incidentally, I had the fortune to it. I mean, distribute my book throughout the Rajasthan judiciaries. There was a moment of time when uh, my authored book on criminal major acts was there in all district courts of Rajasthan. So that is what I had my target audience in mind, and objective was clear that if I get a chance to be there on the bookshelves of every district court judges, that's I mean, I am going to earn revenue as well as fame, because they are going to resort to my book in the end, right?
Mm.
So what was your objective behind writing that first book? I remember Ratanlal Dheerajlal CRPC was your first work on
The
revising.
paperback edition was and that is very interesting also, Mayu, because I did not write to LexisNexis about any proposal. But they
Correct.
came to me with a proposal that we want to engage you for revising this book. That is, I guess, because they read few of my articles on criminal law and they were interested, so they offered me whether if if I can get engaged with them, and I readily accepted, and that is how the journey began. Then they after CRPC, they offered me that if do you want to revise CPC also? Then also I said yes, that I'll do it. Then gradually something here there. So in my
Right.
case, the offer came from the publishers. So I escaped all the part of getting in, trying to get in touch with the publishing house and the nitty-gritties of it, because the offer came from them.
Right, but there must be some objective, like, as to who all was
So the
the.
object, see, Ratanlal Dhirajal being a legal classic, I had two things in mind. One, that the same standards, and this is something a very valid concern raised by the publishers also, that the quality of content has gone down in last few years. So
Correct.
I had the objective of raising the quality and revising the language in which CRPC is ought to be understood. Second was to make it interesting so that readers read it. I had no unlike you, I had no personal gains as such for it, and the amount they paid me, because we are sharing this, that was also too less, and I did not say anything on it. The next CPC they accommodated it, but for Ratanlal Dheerajlal, it was something very less. But it being an academic exercise and it being something very thrilling and something very new for me, I readily accepted it and it went well. The feedback which came was astonishing. We were surprised by the feedback and the number of copies they sold. And
Right.
when I regretted that I should have, taken the per copy.
Correct. In the end, it's all the number of copies that are distributed. I
Yeah.
mean,
That
because.
has been record breaking, and in the entire history of Ratanlal Dheerajlal, the CRPC, uh,
Right.
maximum copies were sold of the edition which I revised.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's out of print currently also. So, but that's like a clear objective. And what about the target audience? Like,
The target
okay,
audience
for
for
some
R&D
kids.
is both students as well as the academicians and professionals, because
Right.
that idea of that book is for everyone, and it makes very interesting details about CRPC also.
Right. And can you like highlight on a bit of part about how you went about creating the content? I mean, how you got the quality to that content that it
Mm.
reached such a stage.
So time period which I was given to revise it was last revised in 2013. So from
Right.
13 to 17, I had to revise it. So I had to remove all the material which had been overruled or which has been amended, which has been or a new dimension to a particular aspect in CR because CRPC per se is a very broad subject. There are a few topics
Right.
like, for example, in 125 CRPC under the maintenance, something which can be claimed. So earlier it had a provision that the wife can only claim up to rupees 500 from the husband, and this was the maximum amount which would be given. It was later amended and it was made open-ended, and now the law says that one third of the income of the husband has to go to wife after himself and dependent parents, if any, or children. So I had to. This is something which I had to revise. And there was, for example, we have 482 CRPC, which is the quashing powers of the High Court. So that has, taken a way forward from 2013 onwards. There are a lot of judgments which uh, deal with whether if there's a civil dispute, it can be quashed or not. So that way, it was. So this had to be done, and there are other aspects also. And there's one more thing, Mayu, which we must share. That is getting a foreword for the book. So
Absolutely.
you'll do bibliography, you'll choose the mode of citation, you'll come up with footnotes or endnotes. That is up to you. But getting a foreword also helps. So you can get a
Right.
distinguished luminary, for example, a retired judge or a senior advocate, to give a foreword to your book, so that when people go to the market or people search it online, or whether the distributor gets it to an advocate's library, he or she can see that okay, there's a foreword by so and so justice,
Right.
former chief justice of India or whatever. So that way, that gives credibility to your book.
Absolutely. It's like endorsing your book.
Yeah. They also have a concept of like there's a forward in the beginning. They also have something like that at the end of the book also nowadays. That
Right.
is, you have read the book. So now this book has forced me to think about this, or this is how the book shaped me or helped my thought process in any manner. That is something which can also be added. That is something which the publishers will not arrange. That is something which the author has to arrange.
Correct. So in the last, like, I want to ask you a question. Like, let's imagine a situation that you could rename Ratanlal Dheerajlal CRPC. What would have been the name for the book then? I mean, as per
I've
now.
never actually thought about it because changing the name of a legal classic is also because there are rights involved.
Right. Absolutely. I'm just saying, let's assume a situation.
On,
For example,
I would have rather, I don't know, I would have just kept it Code of Criminal Procedure and a commentary on it.
okay. Commentary on Code of Criminal Procedure.
Commentary, huh, or details. Or commentary is a better word on
Okay.
criminal procedure.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. So, I mean, how can one have like a practical title which attracts like a lot of people?
Hmm.
Let's say,
So that has to be catchy. For example,
yeah,
there's a recent book by, I guess, by Penguin on sedition by Chitranshul Sinha. So, the title of the book is The Great Repression.
right,
And the color of the cover page is also very bright and it catches one's eyes. So, that ways it helps. There's
right,
another book, I guess, I mentioned also, Scams and Schemes,
right,
deals with the various schemes which came throughout after independence, and how almost all major schemes
yeah,
also brought with them certain scams, and how
right,
dealt with it, or the executor dealt with it. So it has to be catchy in a sense, but not it has to be subtle in catching one's attention. Not
right.
it shouldn't be blunt, it shouldn't be copied, it shouldn't be something which gives a negative impression to the reader that I don't want to buy this, why should I read this.
So, are there anything that you could avoid for your title?
Yes, negative words can be avoided. Negative words like or words which give negative impression can be avoided. For example, you should try not to use a word, for example, vulture, because it
Okay.
generates a negative impression in the mind of the reader. And you should avoid dark colors in your cover.
Like for example, let's say you could avoid using problem,
Problem. If the
right?
book is on problem, then you can use it. For example, if the book is on problems in Indian democracy, it can say that problems in Indian democracy. But otherwise, negative terms should be avoided.
Right.
That,
It's better to use challenges instead of problem.
ah, correct.
There will be a more appropriate thing to go ahead
Yeah.
with rather than
That,
just saying problems of so and so.
yes, that generates interest also and catches up.
Absolutely. And suggest some titles or anything which are, I mean, people who are attending could actually think of like reading.
There's a dearth of books which deal with practical aspects of advocacy.
Right.
So we have a lot of books on what is the law on, for example, on CPC. What is the law on Order 6 Rule 17? We have a lot of
Right.
books on it. But
Mm.
when you actually have a case and you actually have to file an Order 6 Rule 17 application, then you should have a format for it. And what all necessary things are, for example, for temporary injunction, which is called TI, Order 39 Rule 1 2. So there are three things which have to be in a draft: balance of convenience, irreparable injury, and there's one more thing: balance of convenience, irreparable injury, and there's one more thing. So these three have to be there expressly written in that particular application. So if
Correct.
you have a book on practical aspects of it, with because there are judgments which say certain things about certain positions in law, so you can
Correct.
or incorporate them in your draftings. So that way, and practical aspects: what would be the court fee? In what states can you file a wakalatnama? You need a local counsel there. So there is a dearth of a book like this which can be done.
Right. And probably helping a lot of people with their kind of work that they are doing in their daily lives, because I feel the time issue for a lot of people is because they don't know that thing. They have to get into a deep research, then learn that themselves, and then once it gets into a practice, then it is easier. Right?
Mm.
If people could get those, I could just share templates of how drafts are made. There are big fat books on draftings and pleadings, but
Mm.
that does not help like in
Mm.
any way. You need
Mm.
to have that skill of regular practicing your drafting in order to get a like
Mm.
your drafting is correct, and then you need to get those evaluated as well, so
Mm.
that you are in a better shape. But people generally write big fat books on drafting, and they are only templates. I
Yeah.
mean, cut
It does
copy.
not help, and then they just copy paste it. That
Absolutely.
that does not help.
That's why publisher nowadays have come up with CDs and all those things of the drafting book, so that people can simply take it away, because they know that the photocopy thing is already there in place, or let's say a advocate could simply get that typed from a steno or something and
Mm.
then get it done with it. But that's how things are not happening. Like I mean, draft for the drafting part
Mm.
only. But
Mm.
the other things like registration processes for, let's say, a copyright
Mm.
and all those things, that could be a practical topic to talk about.
Mm.
And I don't think there'll be books discussing it briefly, but nobody deals with it in the manner like there's still scope for all these things to come up from people, so
Okay.
that somebody can make use of those valid information and then probably get that
Mm.
done. Like what is the fees involved, what are the
Mm.
various forms involved, all those things are there part of the I mean books, but then nobody has specifically talked about the challenges that people face while
Mm.
making use of them in the practical scenarios,
Mm.
right? So all those things could be done, and I think it's time now, so we'll call it off, and next time I hope to see you again. Like,
All right.
okay.
Thank you, Mayur. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Namit.